My guest today is Peep Laja, the founder and CEO of Conversion Excel, CXL Institute, copy testing, and very recently of his newest venture, Adept. He's an entrepreneur, speaker, author, and was rated the number one conversion rate optimization expert in the world. Welcome, Pep. It's a real honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Sandro. It's a pleasure.
So, your LinkedIn bio reads a little bit like a fairy tale, but usually that's not how real life works, right? So I would like to look a little bit behind the curtain and learn a little bit about the challenges that went along with the journey that you took.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's start with a sentence that I couldn't get out of my head from an article that you wrote earlier, or like a couple months ago or so. It was called "Advice from to My 30-year-old Self," and it is from the section where you talk about deciding on the kind of business you want to build. And what struck me was this sentence where you said, like, and I quote, "In around 2016, I decided to play a bigger game, build something that's bigger than myself, but there are days when I second guess that decision." And maybe a bit of context here. You went from being a customer success employee in Estonia at age 24 to today, 16 years later, building and running 3 or 4 businesses simultaneously from your home in Austin, while becoming one of the most well-known marketers in your industry. And from my perspective, to have gone through a transformation like that, you must have always seemed to have dreamt big. So can you walk us through how your ambition and setting big dreams for yourself has developed from the 24-year-old Pep in Estonia all the way up to the inflection point in 2016?
Well, it's a big question, man. I guess there's human nature is that the more you eat, the hungrier you get. The more you achieve, the more you want to achieve. I mean, I've always been an ambitious person. In college, I was class president, and then the student organizations I was a part of. I rose through the ranks and became the lead figure in them. So I always had that gravity towards getting somewhere. So I'm very ambitious and achievement driven. My natural tendency is to look around the room and ask, so what are we optimizing here for? So when I was in high school, I had a group of friends who were we were just getting drunk basically. So it's like, all right, we're optimizing for that. So I was drinking the most, and I was being the biggest bad guy. And then in college, I joined this university student organization where the people there were they were talking about like changing the world and being somebody someday. And then I changed the culture I was in. I was like, oh, these people are optimizing for totally different things, so I should do that. And that's kind of how it's been always, where I see what the group that I'm a part of is optimizing for and going for that. And it's about being part of a culture.
That's very interesting. So then what is this inflection point in 2016 where you said to yourself, like, I need to play a bigger game? What is that bigger game? And how has it kind of changed your life that you wrote there, like, that you sometimes second guess that decision?
Well, as you run a business, so this current business, I mean, CXL, I started it in 2011 as an agency. And agencies by nature are pretty slow growth businesses because they're, people heavy. So even if you don't sell by the hour, you don't charge by the hour, which you shouldn't do. It's a stupid idea. you still, however you price yourself, value-based pricing, retainers, and etc. You're still trading time for money, and you can grow only by growing people. So in 2016, I thought like we could grow more by adding another business line, which is today's CXL Institute, which in 4 years has we're making the same amount of revenue as the agency that's 9 years old. So it can scale, right? That's the main thing. Like playing bigger is like having a bigger impact on the world, also making more money. And like when you question like what are we here for in this universe, with what are we doing with this one life? And most, I guess, your podcast listeners, I would assume, are not dealing with the Maslow pyramid lowest level, shelter and food.
Probably not.
We've evolved past that. So I'm only operating on the tip of the pyramid level, which is self-actualization. Doing something with my life that brings me inner joy. I'm only doing stuff for fun and growth. Like all my basic needs are covered. I have everything already. So I basically decided that I want to win at capitalism, kind of. Like I just made up that goal because most goals are arbitrary, as they are. So in 2016, I while running the agency, my side hustle was doing these conversion coaching programs. So where I was like essentially training like via Zoom, coaching cohorts of some 50 people. And through my side hustle, which took me maybe, 40 hours a year, very little effort, I was making an extra $500K a year through that. So I was like, well, I can do that as just as a little side hustle here. What if I would build a real e-learning company, But when you do, and so that's where my second guessing comes in, because actually I'm making less money now than I was back then. Because when you grow a business, you're also scale is expensive. As you grow, you add more people. You have we have a nice office here, it's filled with people. At CXL, we're like some 40 people. 40 people, good people cost money. Obviously, it's an investment too, so I'm not complaining. And it's fun, but it's also more people you have. There's drama. There's conflict. There's you need to there's the whole management and the people management layer, which is complex because people are complex, and it adds to your stress level. And you want to get anything done, you achieve your goals through people, and then you need to be say politically cunning, and and somebody's unhappy and somebody's happy, and so it's I could do without that and move much faster if it was just me. I'm a creator at heart. I'm a creative person. I'm a writer. I'm technical. I can ship stuff. So alone I could go much faster. I will have no expenses but myself. So that's sometimes I think about whether I made a mistake deciding to build multiple businesses. So the payoff would come much later then. So you can't build $100 million company alone. It's just impossible. Nobody has done that as far as I know.
But this seems to be a thread in your life anyhow, kind of playing the long game in a sense. And I mean, I'm just like, because I was reading your stuff for a long time. Just the writing alone that you quickly mentioned, I mean, it's a long game. Can you talk a bit about like how something like writing or for that matter, any other long games that you're currently playing have kind of shaped your thinking?
I just had this discussion yesterday with Neville Medor copywriting course. Like, do we know of any company that is content focused and wins clients through content marketing, where the CEO, the founder, is not a writer. And we couldn't come up with any single example. And so I think, I've always been kind of a writer. So I was writing before writing business articles. I was writing a personal blog on my travel experiences and, all that stuff. I started my first business blog when I was like in 2008, I think, or 7, something like this. So I've been a writer, and writing suits me. I've been in high school as part of essay competitions, things like that. So writing comes natural to me. And I think as entrepreneurs and founders are often creative people. They come up with a vision, and if you get anywhere with your business, you're able to sell the vision, bring others along. So by nature, if you're a creative person, writing is an outlet for the creativity. Some are designers, some are writers, some are storytellers on camera. Could be many outlets. So writing has been mine, and I've always been, as you referred, playing long game. So like in my mid-20s, I quit a pretty decent paying job just to switch careers. I wanted to get my foot in so I graduated with an IT degree. I was a software developer, hated it, wanted to change my careers at the age of 25 or something. And then I went to work in the nonprofit sector for free, full time for free, because I was going to be the VP of marketing and sales. I had been as a volunteer member for years there, and that allowed me to change my career. And then basically I did that for 2 years, first for free and then for like minimal money. Because I've always had the long game in my mind. So I'm building my career, I'm building my skills, my connections. I can be hungry for a while. That's okay. And that experience shaped the way I think. Like I can do most things and be patient. I'm also a weightlifter, and anybody who's lifting weights would know that building muscle is a long ass slow process.
And it's like, I always feel like someone with consistency oftentimes beats someone who has a lot of talent and is like, doing the occasional thing here and there.
Yeah. Consistency is critical, especially for the long game stuff, for diet and exercise, for building content, building an audience. This is all a long game. So patience really is it's unnatural. Patience is a skill that you can train like any other skills, because it is.
It's interesting.
And it's unnatural, meaning it's a godlike characteristic, because gods have nothing but time. It's not a human trait.
Yeah,
I'm not a religious guy, but I just like the metaphor of it.
And so how has that changed for you now? Because a lot of creative people like you obviously start a company and you have a lot of freedom. You can write whatever you want. As you said, you can ship stuff, and then all of a sudden you are more of you're kind of shifting more into a manager or leader role where you do less of that. But then still today, if I look at what you're doing with copy testing and the depth, you seem to be shipping stuff again to some extent, and you seem to be pretty involved. At least it looks like that from the outside. So how do you kind of manage that? And how did you make that transition?
Well, like I said before, I'm mainly interested in the self-actualization layer in this universe. So I do things that I enjoy, and usually you are also good at things that you enjoy. So I don't have time to write blog posts, so that I have given up really. Like this year, 2020, I've written one. I just don't have the time for it. But I'm posting daily on social because how long does it take you to write 3 lines, So
Right.
social is great so that's my outlet for content is social media, Twitter, LinkedIn. And there are certain things that I feel that I'm good at and I enjoy doing, and so I'm hands-on with those. I don't scale myself, but I can scale through people. So I have a vision what needs to be built. So I find people that will help me carry out this vision, either through hiring or contracting something out. So, for instance, for copy testing, we're doing this virtual summit that's taking place next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's my first virtual summit. I just thought, hey, I think I'm going to do it, and I think I had a vision of what it's going to look like and how, and exactly like that. And I've been in the events business for 10 years, so I have no fear of doing events. But there's a lot of like logistical nitty gritty that is important, but I don't have time for. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically subcontracted it out to like the logistics handling. So I'm only focused on the big picture stuff, and also being the evangelist for it, and so like I can be hands on. But the things that don't require skills or experience, or that I don't enjoy doing,
Mm-hmm.
I delegate.
But I feel like that's a skill in itself. I mean, did you kind of always have that skill of delegation and actually feeling comfortable with giving something away,
Mm-hmm.
and it might not be exactly that quality that you would do it yourself? Like, have you developed that, or is that something that you learned?
It's something I've learned and developed over the years. I've still my first instinct for many things is to go and do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think last couple of years especially has been me letting go more and trusting other people more. And usually people surprise you in good ways, and you also see what is the unique value that you bring. There are areas where you are kind of, let's say, irreplaceable, or if not irreplaceable, you can add much more value than others. So that tells you that this is where your unique combination of skills and experience, can deliver the most value. So that's where I focus also my time. Like, I don't need to run Facebook campaigns because some people are really great at it. I'm not.
Right.
But I have other skills.
How do you, if you hire people, whether that's short term or also like a long term position, what are you looking for?
Mm-hmm. As in terms of personality traits, most important to me is being proactive. So showing initiative, coming up with stuff yourself, taking responsibility, showing ownership. So that is most important to me. And you can quickly see if people are like that, because these people are, if they work at a company, they are entrepreneurs. They are the ones always coming up with stuff, or they have side hustles, or they're active in nonprofits. So, like, you can demonstrate that you are proactive. You can see it also. Or like, I look at people's social profiles, like how are they actively contributing content? Are they part of conversation, or the passive listener? That type of stuff. So that's one. Obviously, I'm looking for anybody with strong cognitive abilities. So basically, like, smart as a whip, gets it, learns fast, and then related to that is the learning. Like, what are you doing every single day, or like on a monthly, weekly basis, to get better at your craft? And people who are true ballers, moving anywhere, like, they're always reading, consuming, thinking, and expressing their thoughts. Where some people are like, yeah, I'm into learning, because in principle everybody is, but then, like,
Right.
show me the goods, and
Yeah.
there's nothing.
And when it comes to setting goals for people, especially when might come to how you set goal for yourself, or if it's the same, you can say so as well. But how do you set goals for your teams?
Well, it starts, in our case, is like, our company has certain specific targets for the year, And there's a revenue goal, and then there are leading measures. When it comes to marketing wise, this might be number of emails captured, or certain retention rate, or whatever, different metrics. And so once we have established what we as a company want to achieve, where we want to end up, we translate it down to who owns which numbers, inside the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so it stems from that. What is the goal of our organization as a whole? And everybody owns a piece of what is the goal for this person. And then there are certain, we call it scorecards. What are the numbers expected of everyone? What are people expected to ship? How do we know that we're winning? Somebody's winning or losing. So there's a way to check. In ideal world, nobody should ever doubt that they're doing a good job or not. I mean, it's difficult, obviously,
right?
But that keeping that sort of scorecards is goes a long way.
Do you have specific measure, like if someone is not performing, do you have specific do you kind of go out and say like, hey, this is what's missing and this is how you can get it? Or like, what happens if someone is not performing?
Yeah, obviously you want to help and guide the person, but to an extent is like if somebody's repeatedly struggling with certain things, it's just also a sign that it's not up to, it's not really up their alley. Somebody else, they're not suited to it. So if somebody's working on stuff that they're not suited for, the best thing to do is to either find a new role for that person if you have that capability inside your organization, or just let them free so they could find a place where they can thrive. Because one person can suck at job A but really do well in job B. So I've fired my share of people. I'm always difficult, obviously. But like these development chats are important. These days, I don't manage very many people directly. So it's maybe 3 at CXL and then 2 people at copy testing. The rest is middle management.
Yeah, like so you kind of came up as an owner of an agency. What parts of your businesses today are you feeling comfortable with actually outsourcing?
So the way I think about it is, you as a business, you need to decide what is the magic sauce that you bring, and everything else you can outsource, really. So 90% of what companies do is same for every single company. Every SaaS company does PPC, every SaaS company does content marketing, every SaaS company does this and this and this. So what is the one thing that we do, So for CXL agency, or conversion optimization agency, it's actually it's the CRO expertise that is the core that we cannot outsource. But test development, so it's like get somebody to write the JavaScript for A/B tests. We outsource.
Right.
I mean, we also have in-house developers, but bulk we outsource. Also, A/B design work for the A/B test hypothesis. We do have in-house developer designers, but we also outsource. And so on and so forth. For copy testing, we outsource development. Even though it's a SaaS company, it's all outsourced because the core of what we do is something else. The core of copy testing is panels, delivering audiences. That's the magic juice that nobody else has. At CXL Institute, for instance, paid ads is all outsourced. So it's because it's not the core of what we're about. And we could outsource even more things, So I'm a believer that when previously talent management was a key skill that any company should possess, still is important. Vendor management is going to be, more and more important. The ability to hire and manage vendors.
Yeah, I'd like to go more into detail there. Like, what do you actually think it takes to be a good vendor manager? Because I fully agree. I think this is coming more and more. And I was recently talking to Rand Fishkin, and I was super surprised on how much he actually outsources of his new company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, vendor management, you need to be, demanding, and you need to know, you need to be a subject matter expert yourself, so you can ask for the right standard, quality of work, and also you can negotiate on some details, like say how long does it take to achieve something, and
Right.
if you see success or failure, can you recognize it? I, as a person, if I had to manage, let's say, development sprints, and they're saying like XYZ takes, this much time, I'm a former developer, but I've been out of the loop so long that I wouldn't be able to discuss the specifics intelligently enough to really manage that vendor personally super well, whereas, give me a content marketing agency. I know all about content. I would be, I would know exactly, how to do that. So you need to have subject matter expertise to judge the quality of work. And obviously, with any type of outsourced stuff, which you're not specifically asking for, you don't typically get. There might be obviously vendors that go above and beyond, but.
But I mean, how do you achieve, as somebody who outsources, that you actually get what you want? I mean, do you have some kind of brief that you give out? I've actually, most of the times where I've outsourced something, this has been an issue. And so I'm super interested in how you deal with that, because since you are working on several businesses, I mean, you must have gotten pretty good at explaining what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the vision of what needs to be delivered needs to be crystal clear, 100%. So, yeah, it's hard for me to speak from the perspective of like what other people are doing versus what I'm doing, because I really don't have visibility into how other people go about it. Yeah.
And so if we shift the conversation a little bit to something that you've been obviously passionate about a lot, which is education, where do you see the current state of education in marketing? Because we just actually backed also your new venture, Adept, or it's in its infancy, I guess, which I thought was really interesting, was like around playbooks. So can you talk a bit about where you see education, maybe in the tech sector in general, but specifically in marketing, and where it's headed, where you see all the flaws are?
Yeah, well, it's hard to know where things are headed. What I can say is that the way classical education, online education works is like it's really transferring the classroom way of teaching into the online setting, and it really doesn't work that way unless people are full-time students. And the problem really is that learning for most people is a side hustle, and it's hard to make time for it because people are busy and not getting any less busy. People are always busy. Inside organizations, what are the managers asking you about? They ask you, did you ship these tasks? Did you get this done? What are the results? They're not asking you, did you do your learning? Like, what did you learn? Some do, but that's rare. So mostly people, and that is a signal that what matters is doing the tasks, not but learning. And learning is treated as if it's your own problem. You go home and after work, and if you don't have a family, fine. But if you have like kids at home, then that's not really something that you can dedicate time to. At the same time, what prompts people to take a course? It's because in most cases they have a task at hand. Right. Either a superior gave them a task, you should do this or achieve this goal, and they don't know how to go about it, or they themselves chose to work on something and they're not really sure how to go about it. Whether it's build this high converting landing page or work on our onboarding email sequences, whatever it may be. And so, and the way the typical online courses work is that they're all encompassing. It's like if somebody tells me, hey, make sure that our Google Analytics data is accurate. How do I learn that? Because when I learn a Google Analytics course, it's like, it's like 9 hours of everything right. Google Analytics, even though I need one micro piece, Yeah. And so the everything in one piece approach is great. If somebody is like, oh, I don't know anything about analytics, now I want to learn about analytics. It's great to level up. It's like the classical education. But if you only wanted one piece, that's where the current system fails, especially if it's video content, because skimming video is very difficult. Right. And so it addresses, those particular use cases and problems.
Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes when what happens today, if you're actually looking to solve a problem, you Google and then you find some kind of best practice, really. And so how is a dev or what a dev is doing different from like me going and trying to find the solution that I'm looking for?
Yeah, well, in Google, the problem is curation, like the content that ranks the best is not necessarily the best. In fact, like marketers ruin everything. So the content that ranks the best has just the most backlinks and, does other SEO things well. Right. But it's written by a content marketer who is not an expert at that, odds are, it might be, but so there's a lot of mediocre or even wrong advice out there. And then you have to be the judge, like what's good, what's accurate, what's worth emulating, what's actually not. If you have stuff like Neil Patel ranking very high, like it's a joke, obviously. So with that depth is like we offer you curated experience where you can trust this content. It's been vouched for. The person who produced the playbook is actually a subject matter expert at this specific thing.
And for what kind of marketer, like at what seniority do you see a dev? It's probably not for the complete beginner, I guess.
Well, initially the idea is that it's more for intermediate to advanced level people who already know quite a bit. Right. So they know a lot, they just maybe don't know or they're not sure about this one particular piece of it. However, an emerging use case, prototypes is that people are using it to delegate tasks. So if you have an intern or a junior employee or a virtual assistant in the Philippines, hey, go do this thing for me. Well, how do I do it? And you link to a playbook. Well, here, because all the playbooks are step by step. First you do this, then that, and so on. So it's from that point of view, it's for all levels.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the one thing that I am involved in right now a lot is like writing all these SOPs and kind of checklists for VAs and other outsourcing sources. So that's basically a little bit what it is, right? It's like a playbook, like a checklist playbook kind of thing. Because, for example, when I was looking for kind of example or template SOPs for podcasts, for example, hundreds and thousands of people are doing it, but there is no cohesive like checklist out there that I could send. So I did my own, right? And so is it fair to say like it might always be like almost a SOP kind of database as well?
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In another recent article that you wrote, that was about like differentiation and positioning, I guess, like around the larger
the only
term
one I wrote
positioning.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually checking before. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that and the 30-year.
Oh yeah, that one too. Yeah.
One. Yeah, exactly. And so there you say, that marketing is kind of this game of attention, and
absolutely.
And then a strong brand is kind of your best and most sustainable long-term marketing asset. And I still feel this has not really reached a lot of marketing departments today. I mean, it's still very, very performance only, and very little brand building, and very little actual positioning work, even though positioning in my book is kind of the business decision number one that should be made. So
it depends, what kind of type of businesses we're exactly talking about here. Is it like B2B SaaS companies or retail cosmetics businesses? But in a nutshell, people have a very limited consideration set of which brands they consider buying. And to break through and get into the consideration set, you need to somehow stand out. So the top 5 companies are always the big companies with the best node, that have the most awareness, most market penetration. And so those companies, they need less differentiation is less important, because it's people know about you, and that goes a long way. People recommend tools and brands all the time without ever using them, just because they have heard of them. You see on Twitter, freelance copywriters recommend the Optimizely as an A/B testing tool. They have no idea it costs $150,000 a year, and so on. Never even seen it, no idea how it works, but they have heard of it. They read it in a blog. And so if you're a market leader, you have a long-known brand, your Salesforce, your HubSpot, your MailChimp, that's fine. You don't need strong differentiation. Whereas if you're just now launching a new CRM, a new email marketing tool, new you name it, live chat tool, you absolutely cannot compete on features. Competing in features is anyways really not sustainable path for SaaS companies, because they will be copied. But in any type of industry, like anything you do that is working, people can replicate. So that the functional, the measurable, the tangible stuff, you cannot differentiate it on it long unless you can, unless you're an outlier that can really play the innovators game for a long time. Like right now, Tesla makes the best electric cars. They have the best battery life and all those things, the best tech, but not for long, is my prediction. Because like every single car company is working on their electric cars, right? 5 years from now, does Tesla have a technical advantage anymore? Like maybe they do. Maybe they're able to pull it off, and kudos to them. But maybe it's just because Tesla was the first to be the mainstream electric car that will carry them. It's going to be about their brand, not about their batteries.
Yeah. And so if we take one of your ventures, copy testing, how did you go about that? About like a differentiation exercise?
Well, first of all, it's with copy testing, it's easy because it's the only tool in the world that does what it does. There's nothing like it. So it's truly differentiated right now, also functionally. Obviously, as we start getting more market share, more awareness, starting getting bigger, the copycats will come. It's inevitable. fully aware and planning on it to build moats before the competitors emerge, and then fully understand that brand is what is the long-term competitive edge, along with some other moats. Also, one of the things we're doing, we're actually going to rebrand copy testing, and giving it a new name. So this is coming in the next few weeks. Copy testing will become Wynter. And the key reason there is that first of all, our use cases and what the product function it does will evolve. It's not just about testing copy. So the current name has painted us into the corner of what we can be about.
Right.
So it's basically an audience research tool. And copy testing is a form of audience research, but not the only. There are other use cases or other applications that we're working on. So that's one. And two, copy testing is a literal name. And a literal generic descriptive brand name is a weak brand name, because it's just describing what you do. So like SEOpeople.com would not be a great SEO agency, you cannot, or like SEO rankings tool would be a terrible name for like Ahrefs, or electric car company would be a terrible name for Tesla, or and so on. So like if you describe literally what you do, it's just a marketing handicap in the long run. Something that you can work with if you want to, usertesting.com. But then again, all these other clones that do exactly what usertesting.com does. I don't really know brand-wise how user testing is better. I mean, I know their positioning is like enterprise, and they have the first. They were the first, that helps them. Plus, their the market awareness. They're like the number one most known user testing tool there is. So I think that's carrying them. If they were called something else, if they had a brand name, like Salesforce or something, I think they could be even bigger.
And so, what other directions are you seeing yourself going into with copy testing, if you want to share?
Well, it's still an audience research tool as it is right now, but it's so what we do. What is the magic sauce of copy testing is that we bring your target audience and look at your stuff, your website or your marketing materials, whatever it is, and what are the people that you're trying to sell to? What do they think? How they perceive your marketing, your sales collateral? So your website copies is one thing, but there's also like maybe if I am selling to, VP product people at, direct to consumer companies, I want to know what are the top 5 problems that they have, like market research things. So what we can do is like we deliver you the audience, but you can ask them whatever you want. So you can survey them about their top problems. So it wouldn't be related to the copy you have on your website.
Yeah.
Rather learning about, what are they spending money on? Which problem needs urgent solving? So basically, we're going to reposition copy testing as audience research tool, and we deliver you the audience, and we can multiple use cases there.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I mean, I spent 3 years of my life building a tester pool of 500,000 people. So like we've done more the general public, where somebody
consumer panels,
exactly, more but then also more and more for like actual user tests, like in-house user tests and stuff like that, usability tests. And so I totally see like the more niche down tech only version of that, like you just mentioned, like VP of something was super hard for us to get always.
For sure, consumer panels is easy, and it's pretty much solved. You obviously know MTurk, companies like Prolific and so on. So there are a lot of companies that can deliver consumer panels. I mean, obviously, a lot of it is full of spam, and I'm sure you know.
Yes, for
You've been
sure.
in the audience business, but the B2B audience is really an unsolved problem. There are obviously panel companies out there that claim that they can deliver, and some of the market leaders, we were shocked. It's all a scam. Like you pay $15,000 for VP marketings, but they're actually Indian teenagers.
Yeah.
It's a really like kind of write some expose stuff down the line about how the huge enterprise companies are actually lying to you. It's all a fucking scam. So we're gonna change it up.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting business to be in, and it's a tough nut to crack as well. It's an interesting way to go, because I think it's still needed. I mean, it's one of the main things that we got at the time were like actually businesses, hey, really cool, you could help us with that. Can you also help us with the B2B profiles? So I'm looking forward to what you come up with there. So in terms of where where your kind of career developed all the way up until today, like, do you see yourself kind of building businesses, more and more businesses, and kind of building your personal brand? Like, what's sort of the long game for you nowadays?
Well, building a personal brand is definitely a thing I think about, because it lifts all the boats, all the projects that I'm working on. If I have higher visibility, that impacts positively everything else. I've also come to realize that if you're hands-on with projects, and by projects I mean companies, there's only so much mind space that you have. And context switching from company A, like today I'm working on CXL problems, and then now I'm working on copy testing stuff, and so on and so forth. That context switching is very costly to productivity. And so right now, there's 4 businesses. I don't think I could handle more in my brain.
Yeah, that's
like I would
plenty.
need to be more distant. Like right now, I'm in the CEO role for 2 of them, and it's already a lot. And I should get somebody else. So that's going to be the future, where if I be more of a team member and so on. But when companies in the early stages, I am a starter. So this is where my skill set is best utilized. Get companies to a certain level, and then we can bring in, a CEO later to take over from me once the company is, on a solid footing. But like maybe from 0 to 5 million level, maybe it's me.
Awesome. Like, when you talk about personal branding, I'm always getting excited, because I would I am I'm in Switzerland, and a good chunk of the audience is from Switzerland, and it's not the most natural thing to do in our country. And I would still like to have more people try it out. Can you talk a bit about like what personal branding has done for you in your career?
Well, I mean, most recent example is that launching copy testing. The first 1,000 users that we got was all through my personal social media. We never sent a single email to any CXL list or anything. It's just my Twitter and my LinkedIn sent us the first 1,000 users. And this is before we even launched to the public, before we launched in Product Hunt, and we're number 1 of the day. That sent a lot of people. Before that, we had 1,000 users in. So that's just an example. I recently did a brand survey for CXL, and also asked, why do you what are the reasons that you see why you would sign up for CXL Institute? and still a surprising amount of people said it's because of me. So um, when people like you and know about you, they're more likely to buy your stuff. People buy Moz as their SEO software because of Rand Fishkin, even though Rand is long gone from Moz.
Right.
Or why does somebody use Basecamp? There might be practical reasons as well, but also you probably like the two outspoken founders. You've read their books, and you found you resonate with these guys. So personal brand just is also a form of business differentiation. You like the person. You buy a Tesla because you like Elon Musk. Who's the CEO of Mazda or Peugeot or
right.
or Nissan? Like, I have no idea. I mean, I guess Carlos Ghosn was recently implemented, but besides the Japanese escape stories, and even so Tesla is an example of how a really big company uses CEO as a vehicle to brand the company. I mean, we saw that with Microsoft and Bill Gates, Jobs and Apple, obviously. So the current CEOs for both Microsoft and Apple, obviously well-known people, but they don't have the same type of maybe like personal brand building that's gone in there. And if in Switzerland it's not much practice, that means there's less noise. That's much more space to grab for anybody who is out there doing it. Obviously, there are risks because, as the old saying is, that the nail that sticks out gets hit. So there are people who will say you are wrong. There are people who will say you are amoral, and so when I do my personal top outlets are Twitter and LinkedIn, and people call me out and people like disagree with me, and that's great, because if you say stuff that nobody disagrees with, it means you're not bold enough. You're saying vanilla safe stuff. Safe stuff is boring stuff. There's no way to build a personal brand.
It's interesting. So you almost also use that as fuel or as proof better that you're onto something.
Also, for sure, yeah. I mean, anything that I talk about on social media, everything is a low cost experiment. Very quickly, I can validate whether a particular topic is of interest. Based on how much engagement it gets. Sometimes I have like ideas that I personally find fascinating, and I keep thinking about it. Put them on social, and it's like it doesn't go anywhere. It's like there's no mass appeal to these ideas, So, but some things like do sustainably, repeatably well.
For someone who gets started with personal branding, as you have at some point, what do you recommend someone who gets started today?
I mean, you just need to have consistency, and you need to put yourself out there, So written word, video, audio, be a guest at everyone's podcast who will have you, film your own videos, put them on YouTube, put them on social, post daily on Twitter and LinkedIn. And, obviously Instagram and other channels might be also suitable for somebody, like fit all the fitness celebs on Instagram, right? Like, so not on LinkedIn. So from my perspective, LinkedIn and Twitter make sense for me. And so be consistently visible and say interesting things, do interesting things. So you cannot just fake it because you will run out of things to say. You need to be actually doing. You don't need to be an expert, the world's smartest person about whatever topic. You can be, an investigative journalist. You're like, on my goal to learn everything about this, and then you share what you're learning, your insights. That's also totally legit. Be authentic. Also, pick a topic. You need to be focused. You cannot be everything. You can expand later. Tim Ferriss was this, 4-hour work week guy. Now Tim Ferriss is everything guy, So your brand can evolve down the line.
And this is also something that you I don't remember where, but like you mentioned, pick something in your career or like a topic in your career, an expertise, and be really good at it. Is that something that you did early on, or that you were like, oh, I probably should? Because I mean, I remember you said like you switched career at 25. So
totally,
did
and
emerge?
Also year 2011, I decided that I'm going to be a conversion optimization person.
Yeah,
and as I said earlier, I'm always optimizing to be a best within a circle.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely set my sights to become the best in the world at it, especially if you're a consultant. I mean, being the best is the best place to be, you know.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, if you become the best, I think like it was also in your article that curiosity is like the better version of fear, if you want. Like, don't be fearful. Like,
exactly. If you don't understand something, instead of getting scared, get curious. Yeah.
I think this is super smart advice, and it's not maybe the most obvious one either. Like, because especially when you're not that far along as you are now, I mean, still need to build confidence as well, right? And so
100%.
Curiosity is kind of the cure there.
Totally.
So one last question before we slowly come to an end here. If you have to kind of tell a marketing leader today, I mean, you probably mostly talk to marketing leaders in your role at the agency, like what skills, meta skills are important today for a marketing leader in your perspective?
A leader or a specialist?
A leader.
Well, I think in any sort of leadership role, you need to be okay, good enough at everything, and then really fucking good at some things, and if you're in any leadership management role, obviously, the team management is, the more higher up you climb, the more you achieve your goals through other people. So people management, vendor management are skills that you need to have. But also, you as a senior guy, you need to bring the insight and the experience, and you need to be prepared for what's coming. Because our marketing is about to change, because as machine learning, AI, deep learning, all these things are coming mainstream. No code, low code, all the chip is coming in. Right now is the time to adapt and embrace it, and go all in how we can leverage all these technologies instead of getting fearful.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of need to be at the forefront as well to know what's actually going on, to even know what's possible as well. I mean,
totally.
It's just happening so fast too, right?
Yeah. Hey, Sandro, I gotta wrap it up.
Yes.
I have another thing.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for your time, Pep. And where can people find you, or where do you want to direct people to?
Yeah, you can, you can just connect with me on social media. Follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn. It's my name, Peep Laja, cxl.com, copytesting.com.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye, Pep.